In a bizarre and somewhat fitting moment in the ongoing saga of Donald Trump's chaotic political maneuvering, the former president managed to turn a publicity stunt into a strategic disaster. This time, the Trump-Musk alliance, which many had expected to yield a show of political strength, instead became the punchline of a joke that may very well have helped President Joe Biden advance his agenda. It's not just that Donald Trump took a trip to Texas for a SpaceX rocket launch with tech mogul Elon Musk, but that the optics of this stunt, paired with his undeniable lack of presence, may have just cost Republicans a critical opportunity to challenge Biden's judicial nominations. In a political environment where every vote and every moment counts, this seemingly harmless visit turned into a major blunder, boosting Biden's influence in a way that no one could have predicted. In this video, we will unpack how Trump's disastrous stunt with Elon Musk, combined with Republican absences, backfired spectacularly. We will explore the implications of this event on the broader political landscape and its unintended consequences for the Republican Party. From the optics of Trump's appearance to the more substantive issue of judicial nominations, this event is a masterclass in political miscalculations. The SpaceX stunt, a Trumpian disaster. It all started when Donald Trump decided to travel to Texas, ostensibly to witness the launch of SpaceX's latest rocket with none other than Elon Musk at his side. The optics of the event were, as usual, a disaster. Trump, often a master of self-presentation, seemed to fail on every level. His appearance was described as looking sickly, with a bizarre self-tanner disaster that left his skin an unnatural shade and his lips a ghostly white. His age was apparent, his health questionable, and the whole visual seemed to highlight just how far out of sync Trump was with the youth-driven, forward-looking brand of politics that figures like Musk represent. But the visual failure wasn't the only problem. Trump's trip to the SpaceX launch, an event meant to signal his continued relevance and alliance with influential business figures like Musk, soon turned into a strategic nightmare for his party. His absence from the Senate floor on the very same day gave Democrats the opening they needed to push through key judicial nominees from President Biden. In a move that seemed more like a personal indulgence than a political maneuver, Trump and a few key Republican senators were too busy with their SpaceX field trip to show up for crucial votes. Republican senators absent from key votes. The consequences of Trump's ill-timed stunt were immediately felt. Senators J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and others were notably absent from a critical vote that would have blocked Biden's judicial nominees. Their absence allowed Senate Democrats to push through several judicial confirmations that could have otherwise been stopped with a full Senate presence. For Republicans, this was not just a political inconvenience, but a clear failure to capitalize on what should have been a prime opportunity to block Biden's nominees and shift the ideological balance in the courts. Senator John Kennedy, a Republican from Louisiana, was quick to express his frustration with the absentee lawmakers, calling it inexcusable for members of his party to be missing in action during such an important vote. The fact that some of these senators were off in Texas, participating in Trump's personal stunt with Elon Musk, seemed to reflect a deeper dysfunction within the Republican ranks. Instead of rallying to block Biden's judicial picks, key Republicans were missing, allowing the Democrats to gain an upper hand. As the situation unfolded, the irony of the Trump-Musk collaboration became apparent. Trump, who had once touted his ability to influence policy and control the political narrative, had inadvertently handed Biden a victory. Instead of strengthening his own party's position, Trump had provided Democrats with the perfect opportunity to advance their agenda. The role of Trump's nominees and the consequences for the GOP. The consequences of this stunt extended beyond the immediate loss of votes. It exposed deeper flaws within the Republican Party's strategy when it comes to confirming judges and nominees. Trump, who had prided himself on appointing judges that would secure a conservative legacy, now found himself facing dissent within his own ranks. For example, Trump's controversial nomination of Matt Gaetz was met with immediate resistance from Senate Republicans. It quickly became clear that Trump's nominees were often too divisive or problematic to gain the necessary support. In fact, Several Republicans who had previously supported Trump's nominations were now unwilling to back his picks, especially after the revelations about the past of his chosen candidates. This situation was not just about one or two bad nominations. It was emblematic of a broader issue within Trump's political operation. Despite his claims of being the ultimate decider, it was becoming increasingly apparent that Trump's team was struggling to present reasonable, widely accepted nominees. Instead of ensuring that his picks had the necessary qualifications and support, Trump's staff was often placing unvetted candidates into positions of power, opening the door for further internal Republican dissent. The role of timing and strategy in political activism. One of the broader takeaways from this episode is the role of timing and strategy in political activism. While some may argue that Trump's decision to attend the SpaceX launch was a distraction, others could view it as a perfect example of how political opponents can sometimes win without having to do anything at all. In the world of activism and resistance, sometimes the best strategy is to simply let your opponents self-destruct. In this case, Trump's own actions and the disarray within the Republican Party allowed Democrats to make gains that may not have been possible under normal circumstances. By failing to show up for votes and prioritizing personal stunts over political responsibilities, key Republican lawmakers effectively handed Biden a victory. This strategic approach, allowing Trump and his allies to sink their own ship, has become increasingly important in the current political climate. As Republicans continue to battle amongst themselves and make headlines for their internal dysfunction, Democrats can continue to gain ground without having to take direct action. This is a critical lesson for activists and political operatives on both sides of the aisle. Sometimes, doing nothing is the most effective response. The bigger picture, Trump's continuing decline. Trump's inability to keep his party unified and his growing disconnection from the day-to-day political battles is becoming increasingly evident. From his disastrous stunt with Musk to his handling of key nominations, Trump is steadily losing the ability to shape the direction of the Republican Party. His impulsive decisions and lack of foresight are costing him political capital, and his attempts to maintain relevance in the face of an ever-changing political landscape seem more desperate than strategic. This trend is not just a one-off incident. It's part of a larger pattern of behavior that is weakening Trump's influence over the party he once dominated. As the 2024 election approaches, the question will be whether Trump can overcome these self-inflicted wounds or whether his inability to adapt will ultimately lead to his political downfall. In the end, Donald Trump's absurd stunt with Elon Musk didn't just backfire in terms of optics, it had real political consequences. The absence of key Republican senators, coupled with Trump's misplaced priorities, allowed President Joe Biden to advance his judicial agenda with far less resistance than he might have faced otherwise. This incident serves as a reminder of how fragile political fortunes can be and how easily a political party can be derailed by a single individual's reckless actions. For Trump, this is yet another example of his inability to play the long game. Whether he realizes it or not, his attempts to maintain his influence over the Republican Party may be costing him more than just a few votes. They may be costing him the future of his political legacy. As the GOP continues to wrestle with internal divisions and Trump's increasingly erratic behavior, it will be interesting to see how the 2024 election shapes up. Will Trump continue to lead the party, or will this series of self-inflicted wounds finally push him into irrelevance? For Biden, the takeaway is clear. Sometimes, the best way to win is to let your opponents make the mistakes themselves. As Trump's stunts and missteps continue to unfold, Democrats may find that the path to victory is smoother than they once thought.